All right, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you his internet is not going to tap out on us this time. And he's definitely one of our favorites. And of course, anything that the boss wants, we had to make sure we give him a proper comeback here on Sportswire Radio. We're going to talk a lot about a company, obviously, that he is the chairman of. And we spoke a little bit about it yesterday with somebody he may know, who's obviously the first lady of Nonstop Action Wrestling, Jenny Hayes, the rock idol of the UK. I'm sure Mr. Snow has heard of Jenny, but we're going to talk a lot about All Hallows Eve next month, October the 21st. And it's crazy as it sounds, we're about a month away from it. And then we've got a partnership that NSAW has got with another company coming up in the month of November. We spoke a lot about that. So we're going to talk all things related to the past, the present, and future of Nonstop Action Wrestling, one of our all-time favorite companies here on Sportswire Radio. Our guest needs no further introduction, but because he is the chairman and the first lady, I think got a pretty good introduction yesterday. He's got to get that introduction that everybody gets. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're back! Wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one. Global Sports Show. He's the chairman of Nonstop Action Wrestling. Nonstop, never stop. Joshua Snow. The boss is here. How you doing, Mr. Chair?
Well, I'm constantly got my fingers crossed, keeping this internet connection going. I think we're doing all right at the moment.
I think you're doing good. Obviously, John Bon Jovi famously sang "Keep the Faith." I don't think we have to go that far, but obviously, it is good to be back with you properly. I'm going to forget about the sort of aborted show we did last week, but obviously, a lot to talk about here. And in a way, it kind of makes things easier because I'm going to go right into it because obviously, the first lady again, Jenny Hayes, the rock idol of the UK. You may have heard of her. We spoke a lot about a show you have coming up here on October the 21st called All Hallows Eve. And I was reminded of All Hallows Eve because I was telling Jenny on the air last night that last week in my neighborhood, I actually saw Halloween decorations going up, right? Which is crazy as it sounds because I'm still in my shorts and t-shirt here in the Big Apple, kind of wanting to go into a dip in the pool and kind of still thinking about barbecues because we're still technically in summer. But there we have it, All Hallows Eve. It's just about a month away, Mr. Chair. And talk about how excited you are for this and some of the things we're going to see coming up here at the Be Strong Performance Center there in Swinton.
So for me, Halloween is one of my actual favorite times of the year. I think
really
seriously,
we got some big movies out right now. Saw 2 we got coming out. We got Haunted Mansion, A Nun's House, and we got a lot of movies out there right now in the horror world.
I actually went to see Haunted Mansion. It's actually a really good movie.
I was thinking about that. I'm a big movie buff, which you'd probably appreciate because you know a lot about that stuff, and that's one movie on the list I haven't seen yet.
I do recommend it, but
all right.
In terms of Halloween, it's my favorite time of the month. So it kind of disappoints me that when it gets to Halloween and then immediately afterwards we're getting Mariah Carey out of the freezer.
I know. That I'm 1,000% with you. And it's like, okay, well, you just put up your Halloween decorations. We just did trick or treat, and then we're going right into not even Thanksgiving anymore. We're just going right into Christmas. Yeah, it's definitely a disappointment. But I think in Nonstop Action Wrestling, All Hallows Eve is going to be, I think, one of our best shows yet. We've got a stacked roster, and a lot of that I know you've been working hard on.
Of course. I mean, already we know one of the matches that's due to go out there. Sammy Blue against Callum Jakester for the Northern Division title.
Oh, yes, we do. And I have an announcement for that in a few minutes, so stay tuned for that.
Well, I can't wait to hear what that is. But obviously going into that, there's a lot of history between the Society and Sammy Blue because
absolutely.
It was Remus Kane who fought against Sammy Blue for the Northern Division title.
Absolutely.
All the way back in last year's Nuclear.
Yeah, it's been about almost a year now. Almost, right? Just about a year almost.
Almost a year. And Sammy Blue has been consistently defending that title at nearly every single show that they've been on, and they have represented themselves very well. Callum Jakester has been in this industry for 10 years.
I
And
know,
yeah,
time flies. In fact, Callum, by the way, actually posted on Facebook. It was just this past week, which I said last night with Jenny. It's already been a year from our first interview with Callum, and I'm like, wow, has it really been that long? And there we go.
yeah, time does fly. But if there's one constant in Callum Jakes' career, is that he's always been the one to chase after the gold. But up
Correct. Correct.
until the tag titles, he's never been able to hold gold himself. And even then, he's never even touched singles gold. Remus Kane has touched singles gold. Carl Kennedy was really close to touching singles gold at one point, but Callum Jakester has yet to touch singles gold of his own.
Yep.
And this is huge for him to be in this match for him, because it's his chance to show that his 10 years it does mean something, that
Absolutely.
this decision to join the society and thereby join the brothers and sisters in there is to validate him, validate his decision. Because I imagine that's how you'll feel if you were to win the title.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Sure.
But he's up against Sammy Blue.
Oh, and Sammy Blue. Listen,
yeah.
Sammy, and I said this last night with Jenny, and I know I've got comments here, and I'll definitely get to them. But I mean, Sammy, I think of all the talent that maybe you would say is homegrown talent, and so you could tell me your thoughts. You could tell me yes. You could tell me no. You could tell me whatever you want, Mr. Snow. I feel like Sammy is the guy in terms of his ability. Has kind of really put himself out there on the map. I think of all the talent that has been homegrown from NSAW, I think he's done the best at that.
Of course, I agree. I mean, it's not just that, but also I feel like regardless whoever takes the Northern Division title from Sammy Blue, because eventually title reigns do end, but it's going to be hell of a hard task for anyone to do. There's always going to be a sense that Sammy Blue, despite being the first champion, it's going to be a title reign that nobody's going to ever forget about. Nobody's ever going. Maybe it'll be one of the harder ones to even top, to be even better than Sammy Blue. But if there's one person who I think has the capability to try and rise to that level, I do think it's Callum Jakester.
Now, I want to go on that because Jenny and I spoke about this again. I don't mean this to be a rerun in a sense, but obviously you're the chair, you're the boss, so I have to ask, and I'll get to comments. I promise I'll get to everybody, and I say hello out there to the people who have tuned in and saying hi, and people who are just coming in. But Sammy, what he's done, not only do I feel that he put the Northern Division Championship on the map, not only do I feel that he put himself on the map, I think he put NSAW on the map for two reasons. One, famously at Zenith, who did he wrestle? Oh, a guy named Martin Kirby, the definition of a professional wrestler. And then, most recently, I believe in Blackheart Wrestling, he wrestled a guy you probably heard of named Sean Only. And Sean Only is the head trainer at GTM. He is basically another definition of a professional wrestler. Sean Only, the previous weekend, had wrestled a good buddy of mine you probably heard of, a guy who's walking around with not one, not two, but three championship belts, called the Natural Born Fighter, R.P. Davis, the man who pretty much put me on the map in British wrestling. So I think what Sammy has done, in a sense, kind of going off to your point, I think he really has been maybe the most impressive champion that you've had, not only that you've had in NSAW, but maybe around, and again, what he's done in putting himself on the map, putting the Northern Division title on the map, but most importantly, putting NSAW on the map.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think Sammy Blue is one of the first names that you think of when you think of non-stop action wrestling.
For sure.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be other names, but
Connor
Sammy
Cage,
Blue,
I want to throw out there, say hello to Connor Cage. Certainly Dante O'Carroll get to, obviously.
Of course, but Sammy Blue is certainly one of the first names, like, if not the first. And
100%.
We talk about how they faced off against Sean Only. We talk about how they faced off against Martin Kirby, but they also had the chance to go for when Disciple was still world-class champion. They had the chance to be able to go up against him for that title.
Sure.
And Sammy Blue, I was watching that match from the crowd, and it looked like as if he was really close to becoming the world-class champion. He's someone who
I remember I watched the show. I think I spoke about it with Disciple. I think one of the last segments we did with him was talking about Sammy Blue, and he certainly had a lot to say about him at the time. I think he even said it to me, if I can say it off the air, he said to me at the time, because Disciple is obviously exit stage left, he told me, Tom, Sammy Blue very impressive in the ring. And Disciple, if you know Disciple, for those that are listening and watching, Disciple doesn't give compliments too much about his opponents in the ring. And he told me specifically Sammy was a phenomenal talent.
This Disciple may not be known for his kindness, but he is known, known for being factual. And
yes, I agree.
When he says that somebody is talented in the ring, he means it. He doesn't say it as a mark of respect. He says it because it's truth, that it's factual.
Absolutely.
And if anything, that's more respectful in that way.
Right.
It's true about Sammy Blue. He is a genuinely superb, talented performer. He's a once in a generation.
Oh, I agree. And I feel like he's come so far in such a short amount of time. Because I remember the first time I had him on, it's almost a year and a half ago now. And I look at from in that moment to where he is now, of anybody else in NSAW, I think that he is like the guy that's put the company on the map.
Oh, I agree. I mean, the rivalry with Remus Kane, the Northern Division title reign, the numerous matches that he's had in non-stop action wrestling that have really put him out there on the map. He's overcome a lot of adversity to get to where he is at the moment, and by all definitions, he is the most worthy Northern Division champion that we'll have for a very, very long time. I don't think there's going to be anybody who's going to be able to top that reign for quite some time.
And I said this to Jenny, and I'll say it again here. I think in, 3, 4, or 5 years from now, we're going to look at Sammy Blue. And I don't know if we're going to put him in Martin Kirby, Dean Allmark, Johnny Storm territory, Davey Blaze, but I feel like he's going to be going places. I don't know where, but I just have a feeling that those things are going to happen. But let me get to some comments here because people would like to say hello. And I'd like to, before I continue the conversation here, say hello to some people. I want to say hello to the IMF champion out there in the state of Iowa, Mr. Omen Black, who kind of jokes around this is his show. And he says, welcome to my show with my host, Tom Bryce, the best host ever until I find someone to replace him. And then he says, I'm trying to replace Tom whenever I want. I'm in the works with the great interviewer Larry King. Is Larry King still alive these days, by the way? He's got to be like, 90-something at this point? He's been married, 7 times. So I hope I don't go into Larry King territory, at least from the marriages. But obviously, that'll certainly help ratings if Larry King is alive still. But I do want to say hello to Daniel Banner out there, Cosplay Kid. Jenny Hayes, you might have heard of Jenny. I'm sure you heard of Jenny, right? Jenny's obviously says you can't replace the legendary Tom Bryce. Well, I have been doing it for 5 years. I appreciate the kind words. I want to say hello to somebody from Australia, the host of the Wired Up podcast, Mr. Ace Reed. How you doing there, Ace? And I think this individual, is a Horus that we know of, maybe. He says, I do it. I think maybe he's talking about a match maybe between Sammy and somebody else. And Omen says he's thinking about who he would like to replace me with. But, okay, so obviously I've got the star power here when it comes to Sammy Blue and a Callum Majakester. And just again, coming back to Callum, and before I get to my announcement, I look at Callum also, and he's the upgrade for a reason. And I continue to say this. Callum, the match he had Gareth Angel's comeback match, technically. If you think about it, Gareth Angel had been out of the ring for, I think, 6 months it was. And he had a match with him. You talk about neck and neck. Callum Majakester had that match won. You look at what Callum Majakester has done in different companies. And what's so fascinating about Callum is that he's been in the game a long time, but he's still so young. So if you think about a Callum Majakester here in this match, he's got also a great case to be the Northern Division champion. And he's a guy that's been a tag champ, but has never held a singles championship as far as I know of. I mean, this is a huge, huge match from that. I mean, I said this last night, and tell me your thoughts, Mr. Chair. This could easily be a main event of All Hallows Eve between these two because they both have compelling stories.
Well, we've not really decided what's actually going to be the main event.
Sure.
Eve. So, well, obviously, we choose the one which we think deserves to be in that spot. But certainly a huge argument to be made that this should be in the main event of All Hallows Eve, and we'll certainly be looking into that. But sure. I think what's even more fascinating is, like I said, not only that he's chased after singles gold all of his career, but just some of the names of who he's been up against. I mean, one of the names that you just mentioned there was Gareth Angel, who has
Yes,
been a
Mr.
GT
Angel.
Ministries heavyweight champion. He was the top guy.
Oh, and listen,
in
and
GT
Gareth Angel,
Ministries.
by the way, he's been in BBC, he's been in movies. I mean, he does the speaking circuit. I mean, in addition to being a world champion, a guy, I've seen him in other companies be a top tier guy as well. I mean, he has been a guy outside of wrestling that is a household name to a lot of people. So the fact that he was toe to toe with Gareth Angel, and of course, GTM, one of my all time favorite companies aside from NSAW, I mean, that speaks for itself.
Of course, but let's also not forget that he's not the only heavyweight champion or world class champion
Yes.
that Callum Jakester has been up against, because
Tommy
when Tommy
Dillon
Dillon
in
was
GTM.
still the world class champion at that point, he was actually one of his opponents for the world class title, and
I saw him in GTM wrestle him as well, if I recall correctly.
Of course, yeah. It was a really close fought match. Like, he's already got the sparks to prove that he's got what it takes to be a singles champion. Maybe not for the world class, maybe not for the GT Ministries World Heavyweight Championship, but this is his chance to prove that he has what it takes once more. That Northern Division title is just within his grasp. He is only a tap out or a 3 count away from becoming a Northern Division champion at All Hallows Eve.
You know what, really, this is really a match. I have to be honest. There's some matches, you go out there and wherever you're in Swinton or wherever else you go to in a show, and you say, all right, you know what? Maybe I can step away for a couple minutes. Maybe I can go to the restroom. Maybe I want to go out and get a popcorn, whatever it is. This is the match. I promise you, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, just put everything down. Make sure you're in your seat. And you just pay attention very closely to what these two guys are going to do in a ring, because these two guys, in my opinion, are the future, I think, of this business. This is why it's a match I'm really excited about. And I want people to follow Nonstop Action Wrestling. I've made things easier for you, mister. So we have a ticker now with all this stuff, because since you last came on, wanted to make your life a lot more easier. You can follow Nonstop Action Wrestling. Watch all the shows on YouTube. Also, Instagram, follow them at NSAW Wrestling UK. Facebook, Nonstop Action Wrestling. Nonstop Action Wrestling Universe. Also, check them out on Twitter here, because this is a company, again, I cannot stress enough how excited I'm about here. But speaking of All Hallows Eve, also, I have to speak with, before I get to my announcement, which I am going to get to it in a few minutes, I want to bring up another person that's a recent guest on Sportswire Radio, Dante O'Cara, the young blood champion. Another guy that, if I think about Dante O'Cara from where he was a year ago to where he is now, I think he might be, if I were to have an award for most improved wrestler in Nonstop Action Wrestling, it very well could be Dante O'Cara. He's going to obviously tell me, no, Tom, you're missing something. But I'm telling you, and for where he's going and to where he'll be, he's really come a long way. And he's obviously a big representative of the company, whether you agree with him or not. And some of his actors, I know you're obviously going to not like all of them, but he is a young blood champion. Let's talk about him, because he's going to be a huge part of this card coming up here on the 21st of October.
So I think the interesting case of Dante O'Cara is that he's been working hard to get to where he is. And, not everybody appreciates the kind of person that he is. And that's fair enough. I mean, we've seen some of the things that he's done in his short career. But he's been able to get so far so quickly. Funnily enough, by his own merit most of the time. Yeah, sure, the Swarm does interfere quite a bit on his behalf.
Ask Owen Carter about that in Phantom Phoenix. I mean, they're still upset about that.
Of course. I mean, most recent example was actually Dante O'Cara put his title on the line, and that footage will be coming up soon. Again, he put his title on the line against Phantom Phoenix in a last man standing match. That's how heated it got between those two. And what surprised me more was that Mikey Future,
oh yes,
who I had no idea had any affiliation with the Swarm beforehand, came out and helped Dante O'Cara to secure the victory. Now, of course, that's also added by the fact that Matt Royale intervened as well and basically dragged Mikey Future away from the ring. But even then, Dante O'Cara still had to figure out a way to keep Phantom Phoenix down. And to his credit, he did. He might not be the strongest, but he's smart, he's intelligent, and he uses that to his advantage in every match that he goes into. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to defeat people like our current world-class champion, J-Ro Lewis.
Yep, absolutely.
We can mock him for many things, but the truth of the matter is there's only been three people who have been J. Roy Lewis in non-stop action wrestling: Sammy Blue, Tommy Dillon, Dante Okara.
And I would arguably say those are the three of the most important wrestlers in this company's history. I mean, I think it's a very, very fair stake. So the fact that he's on that list shows you that he's a legitimate player and he's a guy that's going to be very tough to take that championship away from.
I agree. Although, that being said, we do have another match announced, and I'm going to do it now.
Wow. And I'm going to have an announcement right after you do it. So, boy, we're getting two of them for the price of one almost.
Two for the price of one, because, and they've made this all official. They've signed all the contracts after the declaration was made. At the most recent lockdown event, the past Saturday gone, Matt Royale challenged Dante Okara for the Youngblood title. And Dante Okara accepted. So it is official that one of the matches at All Hallows Eve will be the Wrestling Royalist, Matt Royale, against the leader of the Swarm, the Youngblood champion, the Hellhound, Dante Okara.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first on Sportswire Radio, October the 21st, for the Youngblood Championship. The Hellhound, Dante Okara, puts that championship on the line against the Wrestling Royalist, Matt Royale. You want to talk about another banger? That is going to be the pure definition of a banger. That is going to be a match that a lot of people are going to be talking about. This is going to be a match, I'm just telling you, that this is going to be worth every cent, every single thing you think about, and go it over to the Be Strong Performance Center there in Swim, because this is going to be a match. Again, I mean, there's a lot of history here, and I've actually seen the back and forth between these guys of late on Sportswire streams. So, I mean, this is a match that right off the bat, the champion's going to be really tested here, I think.
Well, even more so, because if I remember correctly, if you've watched the recent Wrestling Appreciation Society show that they put on, Matt Royale challenged Tommy Dillon to a certain Royale Rules match, 2 out of 3 falls.
Yes, he did.
Now, I can't confirm anything as of yet, but there is the inkling that may be the stipulation for this match coming up, that it may be another Royal Rules match, 2 out of 3 falls. So it's going to get really, really intense very quickly between these two, if it hasn't been already.
And at that WAS show, Mr. Royale won that Rumble. So Mr. Royale is coming into this, and he's another guy that's got a lot of momentum right now. He's a guy that's come back into the ring, and he's certainly established himself as a legitimate player, and he's going to want to certainly take that title away from Dante Okara and prove why it's another short run here as Northern Division champion. We'll certainly see. But speaking of announcements, because you had one, I'm going to give you one, because coming up here on October the 16th, just 5 days before the show of All Hallows Eve, we're going to be covering, obviously, All Hallows Eve in Nonstop Action Wrestling, because here at 7:30 p.m. British Standard Time, in your chair is going to be the Upgrade, Callum Majakester. He is going to be here. He is going to talk about his match with Supersonic Sammy Blue. He is going to talk about why he is going to take that championship away, why he is going to show he is the Upgrade, and why he is going to further put himself on the map, and why that is going to be a match a lot of people are going to be very excited for. So you're going to certainly want to check this out here live on all Sportswire radio platforms. So Callum Majakester is back. He is back. It has been a long time since we've had Callum Majakester on the show, and we thought it would be a great time to have him on, and his people agreed to it. So it is going to come up here on October the 16th, 7:30 p.m. British Standard Time. The Upgrade, Callum Majakester, is in the house. And I know that Nonstop Action Wrestling and all the fans will certainly be watching that one here. And Jenny Hayes wants to point out here that the society is taking over Sportswire. Yeah, I mean, well, you know what? If Callum Majakester is a double champion, I mean, doesn't that put the society further in solidifying them as pure just dominance and just pure, frankly, to steal Matt Royale's term, royalty when it comes to groups in this sport, because he would be a double champion.
I do agree, but then the thing I have to point out is that if they're really wanting to be this dominant faction that they're claiming they are, well, it's fine that say that Callum and Jakester does become the Northern Division champion.
Right.
Okay, so they have the tag titles, they have the
Right.
Northern Division title, but consistently, they've been. They say that they're the ones that run the show at Non-Stop Action Wrestling, but I've seen Richard backstage. I don't think I've ever seen a manager so disappointed in their own faction as of late. And that's mainly due because, Remus Kane, touting themselves as big as they are, and don't get me wrong, they are absolutely a dominant wrestler
Oh,
in
I
some.
mean, Remus has been all over the place. I mean, I've seen his war with young Horace. We've spoke about that quite a bit on Sportswire. I mean, obviously Callum as well. I mean, have established themselves as legitimate players.
Of course, but legitimate enough? I would beg to differ because if Remus Kane was as dominant as he says he is, he would have become Northern Division champion. If he was as dominant as he says, he would have walked out of his no ropes match against young Horace, the victor. And now Leo McLean is having to defend his title against young Horace, a little faction that's happening over there as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. Sure. Firestar. Sure.
They
Absolutely.
recently lost Kyle Kennedy. Jenny Hayes is having to take a break because they've got a little baby on the way.
I might talk about that in a little while for a few minutes. You might have heard about that.
Of course, I may have heard about it. But the society, they say they're at the top, but they don't have the full qualifications to say that they are there yet. I mean,
Right.
they don't. If they were truly on top, they would be in a similar position to what the Bloodline were in the big dub. In that they
Yeah,
would hold the
but
majority of the titles, that people would absolutely fear them, and yet people are more than willing to walk up to them, look them in the eyes, and say, "I'm not scared of you."
I would agree with you on that statement maybe several months ago, but I actually think that the society are more in line with Judgment Day because Judgment Day has got multiple titles. And to be fair, the society doesn't. Yes, they don't have the world class title. Yes, there are some other belts that they don't have. But I still think, even though it's a shorter society, I think it's a meaner and a leaner society. And I think that's why they are going to be, again, legitimate forces to contend with. And they still run NSAW as far as at least I've seen, and everybody else on the roster is going to have to contend with that still.
Well, we'll certainly have to wait and see if what we're saying is certainly going to be the truth going forwards. Whether they are going to stay as the dominant faction that they say they are. You know, I think we both think differently, but I think
Sure.
the main thing at this point is that the society. They still hold power in non-stop action wrestling. Whether
I would
it's
agree.
going to increase or decrease over the next few months or the next year, perhaps, that
Sure.
remains to be seen. But clearly, the society is in a bit of a flux at the moment, and we'll just have to see how they come out of it on the other side once
All
the
right, so
flux.
I ask you a follow-up question on that. I ask you, sir, a legitimate follow-up question. Is it a make or break show for the society on October the 21st?
I genuinely think so. I do think so. Because there's already been tensions between certain members of the society. I mean, one of them's already left the society,
Right. Sure.
the lawman
Sure.
Carl Kennedy, due to frustrations.
Right.
Jenny obviously isn't going to be back for a while. Richard, yes, I see them backstage, but other than that, I don't see them anywhere. It's almost like as if they've abandoned the other members of the society. So the society has actually become more of a duo rather than the large dominant faction that it used to be. It is literally just Remus Kane and Callum Jakester at the moment.
But I'll
And
take them for my money over anybody else. I mean, Remus Kane and Callum Jakes to speak for themselves.
oh, of course, I'm not taking anything away from the skills or their experience. I mean, Remus Kane, he's not exactly had a long career, and they've already managed to make a huge name for themselves just with the opponents that they've gone up against, the different match stipulations that they've had, and just
Sure.
how
Sure.
tough and stubborn and just fearsome that they are. And Callum Jakester, 10 years in the game, and has gone up against some of the best that there is in the UK scene, and is also now even more on the rise with the addition of the tag titles and the possibility of the Northern Division Championship. I think they have the makings, but it's whether, I don't know whether they have the drive and the look for it, because they do seem to be down on the look a little bit at the moment.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. I want to say hello to some people, get some reactions. I want to say hello to somebody in the state of Indiana, Mr. Michael Blackheart. His father is obviously a referee at a few companies out there. He says hello. I want to say hello to Michael. Michael is obviously here. I think he's got a little bit of a break from the kids. Young Horace wants to say, I'll take those tag titles while I'm at it too. And if he was the dominant one, he would be the open weight champion, not Leo. I mean, that's, it's a point that could be made. I mean, you certainly kind of, in a way, put that point over. It's like Evolution 2.0, which is kind of what I think in a way, because, listen, it's a shorter group. There's less members in the society. But again, Remus and Callum speak for themselves. Sportswire is honestly my favorite channel at this point. It has united wrestling fans from all over the world. Well, thank you for the kind words. I'll have to give you the check in the mail. And I want to say hello to Andrew Hanley. And I know that the lawman Kyle Kennedy is here as well. He has a few different comments. So obviously some of them you kind of said. So I'll kind of move along with that. But we are on Sportswire Radio right now, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you are on YouTube, I hope you check us out. You can watch all of our shows here. We have a lot of new subscribers. I really appreciate that. You can check us out anytime on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 streams. You can also check us out on sportnarium.com/player. We have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year radio station, which I run, I manage. It's a free station. So if you have a podcast out there you'd like to play, if you'd like to be a DJ, you'd like to spin your own music, you'd like to have an opportunity to be to a larger and broader audience, you can always message me anytime, and I'll be happy to give you that opportunity to have your chance to be on the radio. We do that. And again, also, we will have more coverage coming up here later in the week. Stay tuned for more details on that. But also, again, my name is your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And actually, I'll be back here tonight, which will be tomorrow UK time. I'll actually be doing something different. I'll be doing kind of, I guess, a lifestyles talk show with a guy, the Baltimore Kid. He has a new podcast on sportnarium.com/player. But right now, we are here with Mr. Joshua Snow himself. And, again, I want to talk about our new champion, J-Ro Lewis. The champion, the world-class champion, a very worthy champion. And I had said this here last night with Jenny, and give me your reactions. And we've had 3 world champions in NSAW. Tommy Dillon, the wild card, Disciple, and J-Ro. And I feel like that these 3 champions that have been representative of the company have been kind of, in a way, I think, what the company has needed here to establish themselves. Yes, we have these younger talent that are coming up through the ranks, and certainly they're up and they're doing a lot of great things. We spoke about Sammy Blue. Connor Cage in the past certainly has been a name we spoke quite a bit about. Obviously, Callum we mentioned, even though he's been a veteran, he's still younger in terms of age. But J-Ro Lewis, I think for the moment right now with this company, I think it's the right time, the right place, and he's the right champion.
Of course. And with those 3 names in question, I mean, let's go through them in order. Tommy Dillon,
sure.
When they became the world-class champion, there was someone who, they had gold before, but they never got a world-class heavyweight champion in a lot of in the companies that he's been in. This is his first one. And since then, he's managed to get himself even further out there. He recently won the ladder match at GT Ministries, and he's now got an opportunity of his own, which he can...
Hey, I tell you, and he eliminated Gareth Angel, by the way, at the last show. He actually eliminated Gareth Angel, and he's going for Bentley. I mean, he actually tried to go after Bentley after he just won the title. Yet again, it was going to be 2 for 2 with briefcases. So Tommy Dillon, like him or not, I mean, he's a player.
Absolutely. And, then we go on to the next champion, Disciple, who most notably in his reign wasn't just the world-class champion. He was also the GT Ministries heavyweight champion.
He was the double champion. Yep. Oh, yes, he was.
Absolutely dominant. And it's a shame that they retired in effect as soon as they did, because I feel like Disciple could have gone on for even longer. But
I'm still, a lot of people are obviously kind of in shock about what happened there. Yeah, it's kind of, a little bit of a blow, certainly, but we wish him well. But yeah, I mean, I think he was just scratching the surface, sure.
Of course. And J. Rowe Lewis, coming into this, they were always going to be the fan favorite. I mean, we recently put out a poll for All Hallows Eve,
Yes.
and the votes are absolutely in favor of J. Rowe Lewis and, funnily enough, Callum Jakester at the moment.
I voted for Callum Jakester, by the way.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling. But J. Rowe Lewis,
I did vote for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did vote for Sammy Blue on my end, to be fair.
All right, well, we got three different votes. All right, that's the beauty of nonstop action wrestling.
Yes, it is. But J. Rowe Lewis, they have been a heavyweight champion before. I mean, they were the heavyweight champion at UK Wrestling, and
I was gonna say
they managed to take the title, but then lose it back to Jonathan Sedgwick. And
obviously he speaks for himself.
Absolutely, but the thing about this was that it was exactly what it was, a chance. It was the chance. Disciple decided to try and pull a fast one, saying, well, if I don't want to be at non-stop action wrestling, then I can walk out of this still with the title. Well, that's not how it works, buddy. That's not how it works. If you're not there to defend the title when we need you to, sorry, the title's got to come off you.
It's your company, obviously, and you're entitled to it, and we've seen it before in wrestling. I mean, Bret Hart technically tried to sort of pull that, and that's obviously you have to do what's best for your company. I could understand that, sure.
Absolutely. So in a way, it was almost like the Fire and Gold tournament again for J. Rowe Lewis. He was in the finals once more because it was J. Rowe Lewis who was going up against Tommy Dillon in the original Fire and Gold tournament.
Yep.
But across from him was a completely different wrestler that he had never faced before. And the same can be said vice versa. The Maverick Matt Williams. And I've seen I've seen both of these men perform. They are both absolutely phenomenal talent, amazing performances, and both veterans in this business.
And Matt Williams was the Bolton Town Wrestling World Champion not too long ago. For a minute, he was the world champion in Bolton Town Wrestling for a minute, literally.
Exactly. But both of them had come in even just for a minute, for a month, doesn't matter. The fact that they managed to get to that position shows that they had what it takes. Either one of them could have come out as the world-class champion, and I don't think anybody would have batted an eyelid. I think anybody would...
not at all.
You had your definite Matt Williams supporters, and you had your definite J. Rowe Lewis supporters. But J. Rowe Lewis was the one who came out on top. J. Rowe Lewis is the one who can now say with confidence that they are the world-class champion. And this is what he's been wanting. He's been wanting to get back after that goal for ages. Yes, they feuded with Dante Okara and the Swam, and yes, they had to go through that. And they traded some wins, they traded some losses, but this is where J. Rowe Lewis always wanted to be, and they finally got there. This is where they wanted to be. And this is it now. The chase for him, it's not there. It's now, how long can I hold this title for?
And that's always an adjustment sometimes. It's always tough, to get to the mountain, but then it's always tough to stay on top of the mountain. I think that's always sometimes, you see wrestlers all the time. And Bentley had this problem. He had Bentley on last week, obviously. Bentley now is the BTW and the GTM champion. And this was always kind of the struggle for Bentley to get over the finish line. But now you're over the finish line. But now the next day you have to keep the championship. And I think Jero, even though he's been a champion, that's something that he's going to have to contend with. And we're going to certainly see, I'm sure, that come to fruition as we get closer to the 21st of October, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I always equate a title. So the run to getting a title is almost like a sprint, right? Like a 200-meter dash.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I agree with that.
But when you have the title, it's no longer a sprint. It's now a marathon. But what they don't tell you is that the marathon doesn't end until you run out of gas, until you run out of steam. So you have to keep going for as long as you can. And now, yeah, sure, 200-meter dash is certainly pretty tough. But you do enough training for it. You put yourself through the work. You'll get there. You will get there. You just got to have the drive, the determination, and the physical ability for it. But for a marathon, yeah, sure, people can keep going for hours if they want, but nobody can go on forever in a marathon. Eventually, there's the breaking point. And I think that's what I equate a championship reign to, rather than chasing after a title. It
Sure.
might be a false equivalency, but that's what I like to think of them. It's the closest anachronism for me.
I think that's an interesting point. I mean, I've heard it in different variables, and I think that's really interesting and fascinating. I might have to use that in upcoming shows. I want to say hello to somebody from California, Anastasia Racina. She says, hand pink waving. Hello. Michael also wants to say the kids and wife are doing better, not quite 100%, but getting closer. I wish, obviously, everybody to be well. I want to say hello to my guest again later this evening, the Baltimore Kid. Afternoon, gents. He says, good to see you. He says, also nice to meet you. And
Pleasure.
Michael also wants to say, marathon isn't always fun. I did 3 before the kids were born. The mental path is very difficult. Yeah, I actually interviewed a guy. Now you made me think about it. I interviewed a guy, had to have been about 4 years ago. A guy I actually knew since I was a kid that was like a professional runner almost, and he ran in the New York City Marathon, and he actually did like 20 of them or something like that. But that's a different topic for a different time. Is there anything before I get to the announcement for November that you want to talk about further on All Hallows Eve that we've maybe missed when it comes to the show itself on October the 21st?
Well, what I can say for definite in terms of All Hallows Eve, other than the Youngblood title now officially being on the line between Dante
Yes.
Akara and Matt Royale, other than the Northern Division Championship, which is going to be on the line between Sammy Blue and Callum Jakester, I will say that obviously the World Class Championship is going to be on the line. J. Rowe Lewis is going to be there All Hallows Eve, if the polls didn't already make it obvious. But Leonie Rose is also going to be
another impressive person. GTM Women's Champion. I just saw her in the ring this past weekend. Another phenomenal talent. No question about it.
Absolutely. I think in the UK scene, women's wrestling doesn't get enough credit. I think there's so many
Absolutely
amazing, talented female professional wrestlers out there. Leonie Rose, Alfie Rogue, Summer Rain, Jenny Hayes, Oracle Bella, just to name a few of the
Helena Razor in Bolton Town. I mean, I've had Helena Razor on. I have to throw her in. I've had her on in the past. I think about Harley Hudson. I think about Tonga, Alexis Falcon. I mean, I can go on, but I'm so glad you brought this up because I do feel that there's a moment here that, especially here in NSAW, that maybe we can showcase some more women's talent, and maybe we'll see that at All Hallows Eve.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest driving voice behind the women's division in non-stop action wrestling is actually Jenny Hayes. She has been absolutely wanting to showcase the women's talent in professional wrestling. And you know what? I agree with it. I agree. We need to consistently
I do too.
Women's wrestling, not just throw out matches willy-nilly, but absolutely showcase the best of the best and give people a reason to care. I mean, people already care about wrestling, but everybody's going to name all of the male performers in UK wrestling most of the time. How many times do people bring up the women's performers? But I think what we're going to try and do here, and I know this is what Jenny wants to achieve, and what I want to achieve, and what everyone wants to achieve, is to properly showcase women's wrestling in non-stop action wrestling. Who knows? May even lead to a title later down the line of our own.
Hey, you know what? I mean, GTM, which you brought up, Jenny was a part of the all women show in GTM that I watched live about 3 months ago. And I kind of think it's high time that moment has come, that women certainly be showcased just as much as men. And I made this point to Jenny, which I'm glad you brought up in a sense, is I do a lot of stuff with basketball, and I do a lot of university basketball, as you call it in the UK. And I speak with women, a lot of women's basketball players, and I watch it. I've covered it. I cover, college, university basketball, whatever you want to call it. And I say a lot of times I see the women are far more superior and talented than the men. And I think in wrestling, I think you can certainly make a very, very strong case to say the same, because there is a lot of phenomenal women's talent that I think that should be showcased a lot more. And I think, to me, that the time is coming, and I think the time has come to start that. And I think hopefully we see more of that. And I'm sure on the 21st of October, we'll see a little bit of that, is my point.
Of course. Well, I mean, we'll certainly be seeing a bit of that, because Leonie Rose, she doesn't want to sit on the sidelines anymore. She wants a match at All Hallows Eve.
She's everywhere at this point. She's not sitting on the sidelines. She's everywhere.
Well, no, she's not sitting on the sidelines in professional wrestling as a whole, but in non-stop action wrestling, she wants to make her presence more known. She basically just kicked down the doors to my office and she just said, "Listen, Mr. Snow, you're a good person. I like you, but I need to wrestle in non-stop action wrestling. You know, I've been given matches before. I've not been here for a while. I want a match in NSAW. Give me a match." So I said, "Listen, I think if you really want a challenge, I am more than happy for you on the show to throw out an open challenge. So if there's any women's wrestlers on this live stream at the moment, just remember, October 21st, All Hallows Eve, Leonie Rose is putting a challenge out to every single one of you. Only one of you can answer, but whoever the first one is, you'll be the one to take on Leonie Rose at All Hallows Eve."
Well, I'll tell you what, I am sure that I'm going to have a lot more coverage of the show itself, and I'm sure that it'll come up in shows ahead on Sportswire, so I have no doubt that we'll certainly see that develop. And again, Leonie has been a phenomenal talent. She's wrestled, Tommy Dillon also in the past. So Leonie's been somebody that's really going out there, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. And I want to get a couple of more comments before I transition to the announcement for November, which we touched upon a little bit, and I want to speak about that for a few minutes. I think this might be Connor Cage, so I might want to say hello. If it is Connor Cage, I say hi. Most female wrestlers that I see go over to Japan are British. Definitely an underrated team. Yeah, no question. I definitely think that British wrestling and women's wrestling would be a lot more underrated. And I think I might have talked about this with Dean Allmark, because Dean Allmark, in case those who don't know, he actually trained a wrestler called Tony Storm. You guys might have heard of Tony Storm, and Dean Allmark actually trained Tony Storm. So I think Dean and I had this conversation about women's wrestling in the UK, and I think it's really, the time has come to kind of talk about it, to promote it, a lot more. I think that we'll see, and I think companies like Nonstop Action Wrestling, certainly GTM and Mr. Angel's company, we've certainly started to see that. Odyssey Pro Wrestling, I've done a lot of work with in my career. They have been at the forefront of the LWF, Bolton Town, so I think we're going to see it more and more, and I say hello if that is you, Mr. Cage. Jenny wants to say Japan has an amazing wrestling scene. Kairi Sane is also another favorite of mine. Excited to see her back at WWE. Obviously, listen, Japanese women's wrestling, we've seen a lot of it in WWE and AEW, a little bit of it as well. And before I get to Young Horace's funny comment, there's a lot of amazing UK women's talent. More companies should embrace it. I'd be excited. Yeah, and I think that's something that I've been trying to get across. I even had a women's ring announcer who was a wrestler, who's now a ring announcer. She's retired from Indiana. Michael knows who she is. And we were talking a lot about that just in general. So it would certainly be my hope. I'll do whatever I could to promote that here on Sportswire. I've always been about that. And young Horace, sorry if I'm laughing about this, but Young Horace says Dan Robertson would somehow end up accepting that open challenge.
You know what? That wouldn't surprise me. It
just
wouldn't
saying,
surprise
just saying.
me. But
just saying.
I've seen the kind of people that Leonie Rose goes up against. I mean, you mentioned Tommy Dillon.
I brought up Tommy Dillon. Yeah, Tommy Dillon, big time player.
If there's one person that I can say, and I've watched this match back so many times, because both of these performers, Leonie Rose included, it was amazing to watch. Seriously, if you've got the time to go watch it, UK Wrestling, Friday Night Showdown, if I remember, Leonie Rose versus Cliff Harrison. Those two put on an absolute barnstormer of a match. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was watching most of the time when I was watching it all. So for any of you out there who really want to see what Leonie Rose is all about, if you don't know already, Leonie Rose versus Cliff Harrison, UK Wrestling, absolutely go for it. You will not regret it. I certainly didn't.
All right, and I'm going to put that on my list of things that I need to do when I get a chance. And Young Horace says she's beaten me like 5 times. Well, maybe I won't talk about that the next time Young Horace comes on, but I'm sure that we'll have a conversation definitely very soon with him, and I want to say hello to him. But I also want to say hello to you on an announcement that we spent a few minutes on yesterday, and that's coming up here in November. You guys have another show in a bigger venue this time with another company called Firestar Championship Wrestling. And for the audience here on Sportswire, that we have some more people tuned in. Let's talk about it.
Well, the people over at Firestar, what will they have that we don't have yet is it's not to say that we don't have it. We just don't have lots of it. They have access to such a wide variety of performers in the UK. I mean, they recently had Tom LaRufa, a former
Yes,
NXT
I
and
saw that.
Impact star, at one of the
I
shows.
watched his match with Hammerhead Smith. Sure.
They are absolutely well connected in the UK scene. But what we have is we are the young, scrappy underdogs. We're the ones that are bringing in the fresh new wave of talent. People like Connor Cage, Sammy Blue, Dante Okara,
Yep.
Callum Majakster. This fresh new young talent that's coming into the
Yep.
scene and is looking to make the mark. So we came together and we thought, well, we have things that benefit each other, and we want to show that collaboration in the UK is possible. Because unfortunately, in the UK scene, a lot, not to say all, because some promotions out there are starting to embrace other promotions, but some like to just keep to themselves. They don't like outside interference. They're very territorial. And I think, personally, it's a really backwards way to view it. I think the more we embrace collaboration, the more that we embrace working together, it's only going to improve the industry. It's only going to improve the scene. And it's the only way forward for us. So we want to prove that's the case with our show in November. November to remember. November
Oh
the
wow!
18th.
I've heard of that particular term before. There was a company, because again, I'm from New York, that I used to watch. Used to have shows called November to Remember. Very fascinating. That November the 18th, and that's coming up. That's not even 2 months from now. So that's very fascinating. And I ask you then, you're going into a bigger venue. You're going into a place, and we love Swinton. We love Be Strong Performance Center. It'll always be your home. But what do you, as a chairman or a promoter, owner, businessman, whatever you want to be called, throw all of them the above in. What do you want to learn from this experience with this shared event?
So I want to see, because I've been to the venue myself. I've had the chance to
Okay.
look around. And Tom, if we live stream this, honestly, it is going to be one of your favorite shows to watch. I already have a lineup of all the people that we want on the show, but also the space is huge. I mean, we estimated that there's a possibility that we could get between over 100 people into this, and I know that there's other companies who can fill out even more, and they
Oh,
can get
sure,
2, 3,
sure,
4, 500.
sure.
But for us, that's a huge step up. I mean,
No,
you've
it's a
seen what
lot.
we
You know
do.
what? Even watching GTM shows, they had 120 people in the Fountains Church on Saturday. 100 people is a lot of people. I always give the analogy to people because I do a lot of speaking at different things off the air, and people will ask me, well, what's 100 people like? And I said, well, if you actually go into a room with 100 people, it will actually feel like 1,000 or more people because of just the acoustics and the atmosphere. So 100 people is actually a lot when you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. And these are people who they're going to feel even more about the show, because actually, for me personally, I mean, if you've seen the poster,
Yes.
it's also in part to do with Remembrance Day, November the 11th.
Yes, sure.
It's the day that in 1918, November the 11th. That's when World War One finally passed. So, and I know for a lot of people that it's such an important period of time.
Sure.
It's such a sad period of time, but it's one that we should never forget. And I think it's something that I don't think as a race we will ever forget. I want to do my bit, and I know Five Star feels the same way. We want to do our bit to sort of highlight in a fun way. We want to say, hey, this is what happened all those years ago, but look how far we've come since then. We have lived for a reason. They have done what they did back then for a reason, and we're gonna give them a reason to be happy and to look down upon us from wherever they are, and to feel proud, knowing that we've got to where we are. My family have a big military tradition. I mean, my father, he served in the Royal Navy.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Well, I wish I could have served, to be honest, but that's an entirely different story.
Sure.
My uncle, they also served in the Navy, and I think my family has always been in some capacity part of the military. I mean, hell, I was even part of the Sea Cadets. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
as a petty officer, just doing
Wow.
doing my part. Helping to raise the, funnily enough, the next generation of naval individuals.
Wow. Okay.
But um, I've always had a lot of respect for those who have served, and I always will, because it's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah, absolutely. I had my father had I guess it was a cousin of his that was in Vietnam and never came back, and he was actually one when they had the draft in those days. I think he was the one number. It was his number instead, and obviously he never came back. So I've always had an appreciation for those that went out there and served. I had friends that went out and served in the military, and I obviously seen a lot of. My uncle was in the Navy years. I mean, it was like I was like a little kid. He used to speak about, but he was a cook. He wasn't even like what your family was. He was just a cook. But I mean, the point is that I think that's a really fascinating thing, and I'm sure in a way to come back to wrestling, I'm sure we'll see a lot of militant like action on the 18th of November to kind of highlight what we went through on the 11th of November in 1918. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of things ahead that we'll talk about here on the show, I'm sure.
Of course. Well, I can already say this for certain, in that you're going to see a huge mixture of not just Firestar talent, but also non-stop action wrestling talent.
Sure.
But there's another thing that I can guarantee, is that we've not decided on which ones yet, but our company and Firestar, we're both going to select a title to put on the line at the show in good faith. So whether it's going to be our tag, Northern Division, Youngblood, World Class, or whether it's going to be their Bartat, their World Heavyweight Championship, the European, whichever one, we're both going to choose a championship of our choosing and put them on the line at the show.
Wow.
It's going to be against a competitor of the other show. So say, for instance, we put the Youngblood title on the line, it's going to be against somebody from Firestar. If they put the European on the line, it's going to be against somebody from Non-Stop Action Wrestling. So I think I think what's even more special about this collaboration is that you're going to see matchups that you would never see anywhere else. I mean, the possibilities. You already see who's on the poster. I mean, you see Leo McLean, Oracle Bella, Young Horace, Rob Bagwell, Remus Kane, Callum Jakester, all these different names that are on this poster, and all of them bring their own uniqueness to this show.
Absolutely. I think that you could see something that I'm sure fans of both companies will certainly be very excited about, and that'll take place on the 18th of November. And I'm sure you can go to Nonstop Action Wrestling's pages on Facebook at Nonstop Action Wrestling, YouTube at Nonstop Action Wrestling, 7944 at the minus sign before stop, Instagram at NSAW Wrestling UK, also the Nonstop Action Wrestling Universe on Facebook as well for more details. And I want to say hello actually to my guest who I announced on the 16th of October, the upgrade Callum Jakester. Daniel Banner wants to say NSAW has grown a lot since it first started, has developed new and future stars. He congratulates everybody. And the Baltimore Kid, who's done some music, says, speaking from experience being in the music scene, it doesn't matter if it's 100, 500, 1,000 people. If they feel what you're doing and are truly behind their passion, it will speak volumes. And I have a feeling that what we'll see here, where NSAW is stepping up to the plate, going into a bigger venue, we're going to see a lot of action, and it's going to certainly be nonstop, never stop ahead. I've got a little bit more time with you, but I do have to ask you conversely, because, last night we spoke with Jenny, because obviously you might know this. I'm sure you might know you're actually expecting a child alongside which, and I'm trying to poke fun at this in a good way.
Am I?
Apparently, yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think so. So I kind of, in a way, I was trying to make this a little bit more of a lighthearted moment here. First of all, congratulations, by the way. Let me formally congratulate you on the air. You're obviously having a child. You're going to be a father, and you're going to have a daughter, Lily Snow, which is going to be due here in January. So congratulations. God bless you and Jenny. And I mean, so what is fatherhood going to be like for you? How is it going to shape obviously what you do here at NSAW? And just talk about obviously what we're going to see in your future bundle of joy, Lily Snow, coming up here, and anything else you want to share about it.
Lily Jane Snow. Oh, honestly, I remember we actually went out to Sheffield.
Okay.
Well, and we'd spent the day there, but I didn't realize that and this was on the day that she found out she took the test, and she was working up the courage to tell me about it. And we went back home after a good day, and I noticed she was quite quiet. She was sat at the end of the bed, and she started crying. I was like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And she went over to the drawer. She pulled out the test, and I saw on the test it was positive. I was like, "You're joking? You serious?" I don't think I have ever been more happy about any news like this whatsoever. Oh, it is. It has been such a journey. I mean, literally, in life, there's not many things that go right
Sure.
on a daily basis, but I feel like with this, everything has been going right. When we've been to the doctors, there's been zero complications. I mean, yes, there's the growing pains, and yes, Jenny's having difficulty with the pelvis and such, but it's all natural pains for when you're birthing a child and when you're getting ready to birth one. But it's just everything's been going correctly. Like the baby's healthy, the baby's fine, the baby's growing at a normal rate. There's been no complications. There's been absolutely nothing going wrong with this, and there was a little bit of a bet as to whether, because on my side of the family, every firstborn was a boy. But on
Okay.
Jen's side of the family, every firstborn was a girl. So we
Oh
wanted
wow.
to see which one was going to come out on top. And in this case, it was Lily that came out on top. Because if it wasn't Lily, it was going to be a Xander. But yeah, Lily Jane Snow. Honestly, I say it to him every chance I get. I can't wait to see them in January. I don't think I've ever loved someone as much as I have our own daughter. The only person is my fiance Jenny, and I just can't wait to see them. And I know Jenny feels the same way.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about that with her yesterday on the show. Yeah,
Exactly.
sure.
I I don't know what kind of father I'm going to be, but what I've already promised to them is I'm always going to do the best that I can do for them. I'm always going to be there for them. I'm always going to, I'm going to do the things for them that I never got as a child, because my family was split apart quite young when I was
I'm
quite
sorry.
young.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I mean, it's easy for me to talk about it now because
Okay.
I was so young when it happened, and it, sure, it wasn't great, but I am where I am now, and
Hey, you're a chairman, right? I mean, so you must have done all right in life. I think you did okay. I mean, I think.
I think I meandered into the position of chairman more than I actually earned it. But point taken. I want to give them the stability and the care of a loving family
Sure.
that I know a lot of people out there probably don't get, and it's a shame because when it's done right, it is absolutely special, and that's what I want. Our child, I want all our children's upbringings to be special. I want them to come out of the other side. I think they're going to love us regardless because I know we're going to love them regardless. But I
Oh, I,
want to
I
give
think they're gonna definitely love you. I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, I don't see what's maybe they don't like the blonde hair. I'm only goofing on that part, but I mean, I think it looks good. By the way, I asked Jenny about that. She said it was okay, but I think they're gonna definitely love you, and I think you're gonna be great parents. There's no question about that. But I'm curious in terms of wrestling. How do you think that this will influence you in any way in terms of just how you approach obviously what you do at NSAW? You were speaking with Jenny a little bit about that, and I was curious from your vantage point.
So I know for us, if anything, it's actually going to affect how far we can travel out, but not so much in that it's going to restrict us, but
Hmm.
actually, myself and Jen, we're actually going to be learning how to properly drive soon.
Oh
When
wow.
you
I
get like,
actually do not
yeah,
know how to drive, believe it, and I get asked this all the time. They say, "Well, you don't do you know how to drive?" And I'm like, "No, I never had a driver's license." And ironically, when my father was alive, his last job was a driving instructor, but I never learned how to drive. So I think that's really cool that you're learning how to drive.
well, the thing is for us is that we sort of looked at it as like, right, we don't really need to learn how to drive because there's nothing urgent that requires us to. But
Sure.
now that we've got a child on the way, Lily's on the way, we've sort of realized, well, it's actually beneficial if we do learn how to drive now
Ah.
because there's going to be so many places that we got to take Lily. so many places that we
Sure.
got to be between work and family and
Sure.
taking our daughter everywhere. That actually, yeah, it's going to take up time, but we want to, part of it is we're going to slowly introduce Lily to wrestling. We're not going to force it on them because, if our child's going to pick up something that we're both so passionate about, they're going to do it on their own terms.
Well, I mean, I would have to say, and I said this to Jenny, because obviously Jenny's a huge part of it. So, you do think of wrestling families, and, most of them generally tend to be born in it. Well, there was a daughter that Vince McMahon had named Stephanie McMahon, and who she's famously been in every single WrestleMania. You think about the Rhodes family. Oh, there's a Flair named Charlotte, but Charlotte actually didn't go right into wrestling right away. So there's always been that when you think about wrestling royalties, and obviously, I did have to ask, I'm sure Lily will be a wrestling fan, and Jenny did bring up the fact that Lily seemed to have enjoyed the Cody Rhodes entrance from the last WWE show you were at.
Yes, not just Cody Rhodes either. She also really enjoyed Becky Lynch's and Damian Priest's themes.
Oh, interesting. Damian Priest, interesting.
Yeah. I remember watching them, and Jenny had to sit down. They're fluttering. I can't stand up. I keep fluttering. The theme's just playing away. Sometimes if I want to tease Jenny a little bit, I'll just get Cody Rhodes' theme on my phone and I'll just play it next to
Well, she messaged me about that before we went on the air. I wanted me to bring up the Cody Rhodes. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And then I was speaking with her. I thought it was funny, and then I think it's even more funny how you bring it up, because we get your side. We got her side last night on the show.
Well, I think she may be listening to me up there, because I can somehow feel some piercing stares coming down onto me. But yeah, no, it's all in fun, The more that we can do to stimulate Lily, the better. To be honest, I mean,
I think it's great. I really think it's great. I think it's great, that you're going to be a father, and Jenny's going to be a mother, and I think that you're going to be really great parents. I really, again, what's my opinion, but I think, in all seriousness, I think that you guys will be, great parents, and I think that Lily's going to have a great life, and whether it's in wrestling or music like Jenny does, or acting stuff that you're a part of, I think she's going to just be, a phenomenal talent, and I think that you guys are just going to be great.
Oh, thank you for saying that. We're definitely going to aim to live up to the expectations that I know we're certainly putting on ourselves.
Sure.
We just want to do what every parent wants to do with the child. We just want to do the best for them.
No, I think you will. I got a good feeling about it. I mean, again, I'm not a parent, but I mean, I've certainly seen people, and I've, been in different things. And I think you guys just stay the course. 4 months, it's going to be a breeze. I know there's going to be some growing pains, I'm sure, but I think it's just going to be great. And I think it's going to add to what you and Jenny do here in Nonstop Action Wrestling. You guys really are going to be 24 hours a day, though. The definition of nonstop, never stop. I'm sure those are, first couple years, probably not going to get much sleep, but it'll definitely be nonstop, never stop. But I definitely want to congratulate you guys for sure. But I want to ask you, as we're coming up to the end of our time here, and I want to talk about All Hallows Eve in terms of just a general thought. What do you want to say to the people between now and the 21st that as a reason as to why they should come out to the Be Strong Performance Center and watch the show live here at All Hallows Eve?
Well, first of all Hallows Eve, yes, we've only ever had one show, but it was voted also
yes,
Nonstop Action Wrestling Universe's most favorite show from last year.
I remember.
I can guarantee that it'll be the same this time around. Absolutely. Nonstop Action Wrestling presenting All Hallows Eve is going to be that kind of show again. It's going to only present the best of the best action. And, we're only going to get better and better from this. We are always going to aim to put out the best for you, like I've already said. But that benchmark is slowly rising and rising for us. And with this collaboration that's happening, that benchmark is going to be even further beyond. Because, rumor has it, it might not be the only time that we get to use this venue that we're using in November. Hint, hint. So we may be coming back to there. So there's going to be even more tickets available. There's going to be even more talented professional wrestlers available. It's going to be even bigger shows available. I mean, Tom, this might not sound like a lot in certain aspects, but there might even be the chance for us to be able to use Titantrons for entrances. We might even be able to use proper lights for our entrances. The product is only improving, and that's that was always going to be the aim for us. That is still going to be the aim for us going forwards. And we want everyone who's been keeping up with Non-Stop Action Wrestling, who is only just finding out about us, stay with us for this journey. Because I guarantee it's only going to get better. Through high or low, we're always going to try and give you the best out there.
I think that's why people need to support Nonstop Action Wrestling and everything that you guys are doing or going to do, because I do think, as I've always said, this is a company that I expect a lot from, and I'm certainly excited about the future here on the 21st of October. It'll definitely be a trick or treat when we see All Hallows Eve. We got it also here announced here on the show live for the Youngblood Championship. The Hellhound himself, Dante O'Cara, is going to take on the wrestling royalist Matt Royale. Stay tuned for more details on all Nonstop Action Wrestling socials. And of course, the upgrade Callum Jakes, who's going to be here live on the 16th of October. He'll be there in the 21st, challenging for that Northern Division Championship held by Supersonic Sammy Blue, one of the premier up-and-coming talents in the UK. Plus, you'll see the likes of J. Rowe Lewis, Leonie Rose. You'll see a whole list of talents. The wild card Tommy Dillon, I'm sure, will be in the house. Who knows who else? That's why you want to tune in to Nonstop Action Wrestling and see all the details there for yourself ahead. So I can ask you a lot of questions, but I'm going to ask you one more fun question. Is there going to be any candy on All Hallows Eve? You know, trick or treat, Halloween? I had to ask one fun question. Is there going to be any of that, Mr. Snow, or what?
You know what? Why not? I'll go out there and buy as many sweets and candy out there for everyone as possible. I will go.
What's your favorite, though? What's your favorite, though?
Oh, my favorite. I am partial to Skittles. I am
okay.
Skittles.
Okay, Skittles is a good one. That's a good one.
But that's mostly because I like the red ones.
Yeah,
the best tasting ones for me. If you were to ask what my favorite chocolate is, probably be a Mars bar. To be honest,
yeah. You know, it's funny. I actually had a Mars bar here in America. This was about maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I went to my local supermarket and I actually found the Mars bar, and I had posted it on Instagram. But I actually had a Mars bar, and the Mars bar, like, I don't know why they don't have a Mars bar here more in America, because it actually was better than the Milky Way, because Milky Way is basically the ripoff of the Mars bar. So the Mars bar was a good one. This is why we love you here, Mr. Snow. And before I get to closing thoughts here, Kyle Kennedy wants to congratulate you and Jenny and Dante O'Cara. The Hellhound himself says, won't just be facing Royale, but I'll be winning once again. A rather confident Dante O'Cara. And you know what? As he should be, he has certainly been very impressive here over the past several months. We saw it live here on Sportswire earlier this summer, and I have no doubt he'll be back here in the near and distant future to talk about this match, plus a lot more that he is up to. So very, very excited about the rest of the card. I know that you're a busy man, so I want to give you the floor now. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else, sir, that you want to plug, share, or say? The floor is yours, and definitely the internet, you may tap out this time on its own. So I turn it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Well, absolutely. Shout out to Tom Bryce. Shout out to this man right here, Tom Bryce, and just the amazing work that he does on Sportswire Radio, and just absolutely bringing light to the UK indie professional wrestling scene. Absolutely. You know, if you're not already keeping up to date.
Well, I got some big wrestlers coming on. By the way, speaking of that, I actually have some really big names that I've been in touch with yours truly. I don't want to spoil it, but you'll probably see that before Mr. Majakester comes on. There's some, legitimate big names. So stay tuned for that. But I appreciate the kind words.
Oh, you're very welcome. You've always had kind words for us. But regardless, make sure that if you haven't already bought your tickets for All Hallows Eve, Non-Stop Action Wrestling, October 21st, make sure to get those tickets. Make sure to get them. This is a show, we keep saying it for every single one of them, but All Hallows Eve, you cannot miss this show. Seriously, if you miss this show, what are you doing? If you can't buy the tickets, watch the stream on Instagram. It will always be up there. But regardless, there's that one. And then there's our show afterwards, November to Remember. Make sure that you stay around for that show as well. That'll be in the Pocket in Swinton. It's a local sports bar. Get your tickets for that as well. There's going to be drinks available. It's going to be an even bigger show. And then we'll be coming back in December for Nuclear Winter. And I can give you a date for that. It will be the December the 9th.
Oh, wow, okay.
We're
Boy,
gonna
it's
get through
coming up
all Hallows
quick.
Eve.
We got a lot to talk about on Sportswire these next 2.5 months, but a lot of shows here in NSAW. I mean, it's certainly we got a busy time ahead. We've got the 21st of October, the 18th of November, the 9th of December. You guys are going to be very busy here, Mr. Snow. Very excited about that for everybody else in the company also.
Of course. And you can see this little banner at the bottom here. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. Follow us on all of our social medias to keep up to date with all things non-stop action wrestling. Because I can confirm one thing for December the 9th, for Nuclear Winter. The Winter Rumble is coming back. The Winter Rumble. So whoever wins this match will be the number one contender to the world-class champion in next year's Fatal Attraction. But you can only find out who that is if you buy the tickets for it. But we got All Hallows Eve first. All Hallows Eve. Get your tickets for that.
Buy them all.
Buy your tickets.
Buy them all, and I promise you, listen, if you're a movie fan like myself or Mr. Snow definitely likes movies, I know that for sure. You go to a movie, you go to an IMAX, you go to anything else, if you don't have the movie pass, you're spending 20 plus pounds easily on a ticket. You go to an NSAW show, you're going to see all these top tier wrestlers, all these world champions, superstars, and everything else. The 18th of November, the Firestar NSAW show, you're going to see huge stars, world champions galore. Then the 9th of December, for all that, you could go and buy 3 shows for a ticket instead of going to one movie. Think about the coverage, the action that you're going to see. So I'm telling you, whatever you're going to do, drop all your stuff. Go out and on the 21st of October, All Hallows Eve, the 18th of November, the NSAW Firestar Show, November to Remember, and the 9th of December, Nuclear Winter. Just go support Nonstop Action Wrestling on all of it here. I promise you, this is a company that you're going to definitely want to keep up. And they're the definition of nonstop, never stop. Young Horace likes Dante O'Cara. We'll have to find out. I'm sure Mr. Royale will have a difference of an opinion, but we're going to have a lot more coverage ahead, certainly on the 16th with Callum Jakester, and certainly that week of it'll be a week related to Nonstop Action Wrestling, so stay tuned for more details on that. Mr. Snow, congratulations on all the success here in Nonstop Action Wrestling. Congratulations on being a father. You're going to knock it out of the park. You're going to certainly do better than Harry Kane did in the World Cup this year for sure. I can promise you on that much. I thought that was a good segue to kind of give you a big send-off there. But I definitely look forward to having you very soon here on the show. And I can't wait, most importantly, to watch on the 21st of October, All Hallows Eve. I know what I'll be doing here in New York on my Instagram with my tripod, with my phone held up, watching the show itself. I cannot wait. Thank you for all that you do for us here. Thank you to all for you do on Nonstop Action Wrestling's end. And I look forward to speaking with you here very soon.
Thank you very much, Tom.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the chairman of Nonstop Action Wrestling, Mr. Joshua Snow, and Mr. Snow was here to announce that on the 18th of November, we will have Firestar Championship Wrestling and Nonstop Action Wrestling presenting November to Remember. Also, the 9th of December will be Nuclear Winter, and he's also here to promote the show the 21st of October, coming up here in a little over 30 days. It's called All Hallows Eve, and it's featuring 2 announced matches. The first one for the Youngblood Championship will be the Hellhound, Dante O'Cara against the Wrestling Royalist, Matt Royale. And then for the Northern Division Championship, it'll be Supersonic Sammy Blue against the Upgrade Callum Jakester, who will one more time be here October the 16th, 7:30 p.m. British Standard Time. So stay tuned for more details and all that. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the number 1 global radio station, your voice of wrestling. And I'll be back here 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with the Baltimore Kid, the host of the Be More Talkative podcast, which is featured here on sportnarium.com/player. And if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming here. And I also want to say hello to one of my hosts on Sportswire Radio, Justin Parsley. He's the host of the Protect Life podcast. They cover sports and other stuff on mental health. Told me that he'll have a show for us later this week. So thank everybody here for tuning in on the number 1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on the number 1 global radio station that is